שבוע טוב, גוטה בוך, Hanukkah Sameach, Freilich in Hanukkah. Choosing a different location to film tonight with the menorah to remind us of the miracle of Hanukkah and to fulfill Presume Nisa, the spreading the miracle of Hanukkah. Last week I was telling the story number 55 of the Shivchei Baal Shem Tov. How did the Maggid of Mesrich come to the Baal Shem Tov and become connected to him, become his main chassid, his closest chassid? This story mentions too a source from Rabbi Yaakov Yosef of Polnoy, who was also one of the closest chassidim of the Baal Shem Tov, as I have mentioned in stories before. So where we left it is that there were two students, Rabbi Yaakov of Anipoli and Rabbi Eliyahu Skvira, that used to come to the Maggid when the Maggid was too weak to go to the Baal Shem Tov. They would sit and they would learn with him Gemara and Tosfos and do pilpulim, deep exchange and interpretation on the learning. The Maggid couldn't go to the Baal Shem Tov because he was too weak. Remember, he had gone through extensive fasting and became sick. So when the Maggid started becoming better, stronger, he was able to get up and feel better and start going to see the Baal Shem Tov by himself. Once the Maggid fainted, and he was in this condition of fainting for like half a day. They couldn't get him to wake up. The Baal Shem Tov went 3 times to the mikveh. It's not like he dipped 3 times. He went, come back 3 times, and he sent somebody for the length of 3 leagues, a long length of a distance, to get a special precious stone, a diamond, that costed 3 adumim, 3 of these red slat pieces, and the Baal Shem Tov would crush this stone into powder, mix it with water, and give it to the Maggid to drink. There's quite a few Hasidic stories where this is used. I always thought it was a symbolic thing, but apparently they really did it. It crushed a stone and the powder was mixed with water and gave for him to drink. And Rabbi Eliyahu and Rabbi Yaakov and their friends mentioned above, that the Hasidim of the Baal Shem Tov would come to visit him and ask him, why did he faint? What happened that he had such a deep fainting? But the Maggid didn't want to answer, didn't want to tell them what happened. So they asked the people of the house where the Maggid lived, the Anshe Bayis, and they said that he had gone out very late at night and took a long time there. He took a long time to come back, and when he came back, he was already weak and fainty. So they asked the Maggid, where did you go? So he explained that the Baal Shem Tov has sent his Gabbai to call him to come to him at midnight. Now comes the juicy part of the story. The Baal Shem Tov came. When he came to the Baal Shem Tov had a small car in his head. Car is something that produced light. They didn't have today's electric lights, I don't know, of a lamp in his head, and asked him if he had learned the chokhmah of the Kabbalah, the science, the knowledge, the wisdom of the Kabbalah. So the Maggid says, yes, I did. The Baal Shem Tov was dressing a wolf fur coat inside out when he asked this question. I don't know what the relevance is, but anyway. So he asked him, have you learned? The Baal Shem Tov asked the Maggid, have you learned the chokhmah of the Kabbalah? He said, yes. So there was a book in front of him on the table. And the Maggid says, the Baal Shem Tov told me to open and read it. And so I did. So I started reading, and there were small paragraphs, and every paragraph began with the words, Rabbi Shmuel Sach Li Metat Sar Hapanim. Amar Rabbi Shmuel, that Rabbi Shmuel would say that these words were spoken to him by Metat HaMalach, the angel Metatron, called here the Sar Hapanim, the minister of the faces. It's a Kabbalistic name. It's, the book is most likely the Sefer El-Chalos, which was written by the Tana Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol. So I would read like a page or half a page, and then the Baal Shem Tov told me, no, this is not how you do it. I will say in front of you, and the Baal Shem Tov recited the paragraphs, and the Maggid would repeat them. And then the Baal Shem Tov started trembling and stood up, and he said, we are being oisek, we are dedicating to this deep union of the Maaseh HaMarkava. This, how could I be sitting? So he stood up, and then the words of the Baal Shem Tov start going around the Maggid, who was laying down on a bed, and the words would make a big circle. The words of the Baal Shem Tov like materialize as a circle around the Maggid. And then I looked at him, but the Maggid looked at the Baal Shem Tov, and then I could only hear thunder and see lightning, terrifying lightning. And this happened for about 2 hours. So the Baal Shem Tov reciting of this mystical work became thunder and lightning. And he started feeling, the Maggid started feeling a terrible fear. And then he started feeling fainting. He started this fainty process. Now, the author of the book makes a personal note here. This, in my opinion, this seems to me, is when the Maggid was receiving Torah from the Baal Shem Tov. Just like Bnei Israel received the Torah in Sinai, the things were, they were seeing the thunder and hearing the lightning. Well, here things are actually in order, but a similar process is receiving the Torah from the Baal Shem Tov. Rabbi Yaakov Yosef of Polonoi, of the community of Polonoi, the receive from the Baal Shem Tov, he does the same, describes it the same way. That he receives the Torah from the Baal Shem Tov, and his soul is seeing this storm, the thunder and lightning. And so it's mentioned in the books of the of Rabbi Yaakov Yosef Polnoi. He also says that he quotes that the Zohar says that it also received the Torah with all kinds of musical instruments. Now, the author of the book says, I did not find such an expression in the Zohar, bechol minei klei zemer, with all kinds of musical instruments. The Torah was received in such a way, but I heard this specific lashon, כמו שקיבלו ישראל התורה בכלל, כן קיבל הבעל שם טוב בפרט. Just like Bnei Israel received the Torah in general, so did the Baal Shem Tov receive specifically. This must be a quote from Yaakov Yosef of Polnoi again. It is said that once the Anshe Segula, the Hasidim of the Baal Shem Tov, came to him, and they wanted him to explain this mime or this saying in the Zohar. And the Baal Shem Tov sent them to ask the Maggid, Dover of message above mentioned. And so the Maggid explains according to the Baal Shem Tov, as the Baal Shem Tov had told him, how do you think that we came to know this Torah? How does the Baal Shem Tov know this Torah? He himself is the light of Torah. Baal Shem Tov is called Torah. When the Maggid was leaving from the Baal Shem Tov, going back home, the Baal Shem Tov gave him a bracha, and the Baal Shem Tov asked him to give him a bracha. He put his head down. The Baal Shem Tov put his head down in front of the Maggid. The Maggid didn't want to give him the bracha. He felt, you're so much above me, why should I do this? So the Baal Shem Tov took the Maggid's hands and put them on his head and made him give him a bracha. And then the Maggid gave him the bracha, Adkan, and until here, the story. And so is the beginning, the connection of the Maggid of Maastricht with the Baal Shem Tov. Please give me a like, subscribe, share the story, and enjoy your last 2 days of Hanukkah, which are very, very special. May the light bless and bring guidance and revelation of all good in our lives. Shavua Tov, a gute Woche, a freilichen Chanukah, Chanukah Sameach.